President Obama's intention to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department is the same thing that Ronald Reagan was going to try to do, and close the agency, and then all the programs for the small businesses where most Americans work. And as you stated, Jerry, I'm predicting that President Obama is going to try to dismantle the Small Business Administration and every federal program to help small businesses.
Obama proposes to close the Small Business Administration as predicted.
So you're talking about companies like Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop, Raytheon, Finmeccanica in Rome with 73,000 employees, Rolls-Royce, British Aerospace, all getting federal small business contracts. And again, the move to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department, that's a 30.
There's one agency in Washington to help the small businesses. That's the Small Business Administration. It's actually a fairly small agency. There's 28 million small businesses, and Barack Obama is going to try to close it, which would be economic suicide.
Small business program.
You think he's going to dismantle the SBA?
I do.
What is your evidence?
He's got a bill in Congress to allow him to combine agencies, and for 30 years, anytime somebody wants to close the SBA, they have one solution: combine it with the Commerce Department. So that's why I think that Barack Obama is going to try to close the SBA and wind down those programs by combining it with the Commerce Department. So people are smart. They'll oppose Obama's attempt to close the SBA, the only federal agency to help the 28 million small businesses where most Americans work and all the jobs are created. A press release out today titled "Obama Plan to Close the SBA Could Be Coming Soon." Here's what I based that on. Karen Mills resigned over 6 months ago on February 11th. She's announced she's leaving the agency at the end of August. President Obama hasn't even mentioned a replacement. I predicted Obama would try to close the SBA, by the way, on November 25th of 2008. I tell you how I knew that. I worked on his campaign, and I worked on his Small Business Advisory Council. We put together a list of very logical, reasonable proposals to help small businesses, and he declined every one of them. I worked with his campaign in February of 2008 when he came out with a statement that says it's time to end the diversion of federal small business contracts to corporate giants. When you look at what he's done since he's taken office, not only has he not kept his promise to end the diversion of federal small business contracts to corporate giants, it's gotten much, much worse. What they did was take information off the government's database of suppliers to make it harder for federal investigators to see if a firm is a legitimate small business or a division or subsidiary of a large business. He's also refused to adopt any policy or legislation to end the diversion of federal small business contracts to large businesses. He claims that by combining the SBA with the Commerce Department, it's going to save $300 million a year. That's peanuts. That's one jet fighter. Now here's what I want you to hear. At the same time he says he's going to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department to save $300 million, he's going to spend $7 billion to power Africa. $7 billion. Let me ask you a question. You're an American. Do you think we should spend $7 billion to power Africa or to power American small businesses that create over 90% of the net new jobs? So make no mistake. He's not going to try to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department to save money. He's going to try to close the SBA by combining with the Commerce Department. When Ronald Reagan wanted to close the SBA, he wasn't, he was very upfront about it. He just, I want to close the SBA. And his idea was to combine it with the Commerce Department. So be very clear that combining the SBA with the Commerce Department is synonymous with closing it. And that's what Barack Obama is going to try to do. Every year that he's been president, the Inspector General that he appointed, Peg Gustafson, has found the diversion of federal small business contracts to large businesses as the #1 problem at the SBA. He's done nothing to address it. When you look at the most recent data from the Federal Procurement Data System, of the top 100 recipients of federal small business contracts, 72 are currently large businesses. So since he's been president, a who's who of Fortune 500 firms in the U.S. and some of the biggest companies around the world have gotten federal small business contracts. It's been reported on by CBS, NBC, the Washington Post did a story about it on July 29th. And let me close with this. Here's the main reason that Barack Obama is going to want to try to close the SBA. He's going to cover up, by the way, he's going to close it to try to cover up the rampant fraud and abuse that's gone on during his administration. And here's what the General Accounting Office said about the SBA after a 2009 investigation. the Government Accountability Office. By failing to hold firms accountable, the SBA and contracting agencies have sent a message to the contracting community that there's no punishment or consequences for committing fraud. What's that mean to you? To me, it means that the Government Accountability Office is accusing the SBA of encouraging people to commit fraud. So when you look at that investigation, the fact that the diversion of federal small business contracts to large businesses has been named the #1 challenge every year he's been in office, the fact he's refused to do anything to stop it, and in fact, quite the contrary, modify the government's database to make it easier for large corporations to hijack the contracts and harder for federal investigators to uncover the fraud, he's clearly going to try to close it. And his excuse that he can save $300 million a year is ridiculous when you look at his Power Africa program. His Power Africa program, by the way, that $7 billion would fund the SBA changes for 23 years. So small businesses are responsible for over 90% of the net new jobs, according to the Census Bureau data. They're the heart and soul of our nation's economy. And the Small Business Act, administered by the SBA, is the most efficient, effective economic stimulus program in our nation's history. And let's not let President Obama devastate our economy and devastate the small businesses where most Americans work, where most of the gross domestic product comes from, and over 90% of the net new jobs. I'm Lloyd Chapman with the American Small Business League. Thank you.